Greetings, Acolyte, and welcome back to the Ordo Grigio, the Emperor's secret society against the enemy that is unpainted models. Today we paint a 3D printed model for 54mm scale Inquisitor with only 10 paints. Inquisitor, a fitting game to choose a model for given the theme of the channel, and one that I dreamt of playing when I was much younger. I was sold by the images of the larger scale miniatures and the freedom that came with a narrative game. A game that follows a smaller band of warriors carrying out some desperate world-changing mission. Where 40k was a nation-on-nation conflict, Inquisitor was the special forces raiding an enemy HQ to turn the tide of a war. Back when this game was available, I didn't have the money for the models, or even anyone I knew interested in playing a game like that. Those I knew were building armies and warbands for 40k fantasy, or the Lord of the Rings tabletop game. But my heart was captured by smaller skirmish games like Inquisitor and Necromunda. Fast forward many years of dropping in and out of the hobby, and we reach where we are today. Lots of unpainted armies, unfinished projects, and ideas of narrative campaigns that could span months or even years, set in alternative histories of 40k, with maybe even a 30-page campaign supplement I wrote by myself. I think it's fair to say that the narrative drive of wanting to both tell a story and watch it unfold in front of me through the roll of the dice still burns deep down inside. Unfortunately, Inquisitor is dead, as far as Games Workshop is concerned anyway. I guess it never really did well with their target audience, being much more complicated than their main games, and it didn't really have any real boundaries for your miniatures. Sometimes creativity without constraint can be a burden. The miniature range was also small, though how much was a lack of interest and how much was a lack of funding, I guess we'll never know. But Inquisitor, along with many other of what Games Workshop called specialist games, was, for a lack of better term, squatted. Now, while some made a return like Necromunda or Blood Bowl, the only thing of Inquisitor we see these days is a relatively small community of fans, mostly playing at 28mm scale, imaginatively known as Inquisitor 28. On the channel I've painted a decent amount of 28 or 32mm scaled miniatures, but a few of my favourite models have been the larger models, like the Ogryns or the slightly scaled up Traitor Salamander I painted. Painting models larger than 40k reminded me of a game I had all but forgotten, and when I wanted to do a test model for a potential restart of my Imperial Guard, I decided to do it in 54mm scale, and also use it as the beginning of a potential Inquisitor warband, even if I'll likely never get to play it on the tabletop. So we arrive at a strange combination of modern miniature technology with 3D printing, and borderline miniature history with Inquisitor, and a video formatted pretty differently to my previous videos, where the narrative is centre stage rather than how I painted the model, though the paints I use will still be on display. I printed the model from free STL files I found on the internet, and as soon as I saw a very familiar looking marksman rifle, I knew the model had to be armed with it. This soldier was recruited from the 4th Gabachian Infantry Division and pressed into the service of the Inquisition. This is during a conflict which forms my 40k campaign. They're tasked with defending the Inquisitor in the upcoming battles for the fate of the planet, in a war which sees it come under attack from all sides. While the armies fight for control of the planet, this soldier fights with the Inquisition for the soul of the planet. A noble goal indeed. Given the larger scale of the model, I wanted to lean more towards realism than I do with 40k or smaller scale miniatures. The model being physically larger meant it didn't need to rely so much on high contrast, and I could work on achieving smoother colours. So to stay in the theme of realism, I limited myself to just 10 paints, excluding the polyurethane primer I used to prime the model, though one colour is a solid black, so I'm sure the Emperor will forgive me. This wasn't intended as a challenge or a hard limit, or even supposed to be some clickbaity story to sell. It was part of selling the narrative of the model. In the grim darkness of the far future, where 8-foot tall genetically enhanced super soldiers fire gyro-stabilized, armor-piercing explosive ammunition, and alien monsters the size of a small building charge from a writhing horde of mindless drones, this is just a soldier. An ordinary, human soldier. The times this soldier has survived the battlefield is through skill, bravery, determination, and likely a hell of a lot of luck. It seems in the grim darkness of the far future, the capacity of human endurance is kind of overshadowed by genetic enhancement and alien savagery, and by focusing my time and effort into a model that would cost 8 points at most in a game of 40k, in 3rd edition currency anyway, I wanted to capture that individual heroism that is lost in the larger scale games. Despite serving the Inquisition, they have remained with the gear of their unit, a marksman pattern autogun and carapace armour. The equipment that's got them through enough sticky situations to still be here, and hopefully the equipment that will get them through once more. Whilst you can outfit a warband with all manner of specialist equipment granted to them by service to the Inquisition, a reliable weapon you're familiar with is worth far more than a fancy weapon you've never used before, especially when your life depends on it. And by limiting my colour palette to traditionally military colours, I think it's given the model more of the feeling that they're just an ordinary soldier being asked to do extraordinary things. Maybe things they never believed themselves capable of before they found the courage to make it through the day. Another reason I wanted to tell a story with this model rather than describe my painting was a lot of the colours and techniques are pretty much exactly the same as the Ogryns from last week, as they were once part of the same army. Although abhumans on Garbatia likely will never rise through the ranks or be singled out for service due to the subhuman status given to them on the industrial world. Another reason why that Ogryn could have been so angry last time. Another reason I wanted to do a single model is I'm finally getting to this stage where I'm actually happy with the standard of painting I can achieve. Realistically, even though I've been in and out of the hobby for a long time, painting has only ever really been a byproduct rather than the goal. It's only really been a year or so that I've actually tried to paint well, and for the sake of painting. So I guess this model is both a love letter to the quirky narrative games of old, and a celebration of painting for painting's sake. A lot of people view painting miniatures as a way to get them onto the tabletop and nothing more, and that's okay. Each of us in this crazy hobby are passionate about different aspects, and that's one of the joys of miniatures. But we can all come together and appreciate the models we paint, or the games we play. Even sometimes the games we don't play, but wish we did. Some people out there will watch videos of people painting minis and wish they were better, or think they're not good enough based on what they see. But realistically, it doesn't really matter how you stack up against people who may paint for a living or be professionally trained artists. It took me a long time to realise this, and honestly wish I had sooner. Each model I paint is an expression, be it of a unit on the tabletop, or a character that would be lost in a larger scale conflict. And importantly, they're my miniatures. Mine to print, mine to paint, and mine to display or show off as I feel necessary or inclined. Now, I don't think I'm an amazing painter by any stretch of the imagination, and I know there are loads out there who make me look like a toddler drawing with a crayon. But the important thing to take away from this is, that's okay. Much like, even though this model is for a game I'll never play, I enjoy the journey of painting and creating this little slice of my tabletop history, even if it's just a tiny drop in the ocean of the miniature hobby in general. Philosophy of painting aside, we have a small problem. As it stands, this soldier, fighting for their life and their home planet against untold horrors, has no name, which is where I would like to enroll your help as fellow members of the Ordo Grigio. If you made it this far into the video, you've heard the story so far of this soldier, and I'd like to open it up to all of you for name suggestions. Eventually I plan to have a warband and some villains, so maybe we can discover the narrative of their world together, even if the models probably won't see any tabletop combat. With all that said, and plenty of waffle gone on, with the model painted, they look like this. So, a completed marksman, serving the Inquisition, in a scale Games Workshop abandoned many years ago. But a fine model nonetheless. Going by the poll I put up last week, it's another 54mm scale miniature next week, but on the darker side of the war. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I'd love to hear what you think down in the comment section below, and I'll see you all next time.